we come to the last topic we like to discuss in group. It's about the question of how to write a success story, and the question behind is sustainability, the key for the event industry. And I like to call on stage Guy Bigwood, Global Destination Sustainability Movement. He calls himself as a Changemaker, and he's a recognized expert in creating regenerative destinations and events. Yes. 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 Sebastian Gonzalez, Business Events Sydney. Not a long way because you live in Berlin, but he's Associated Director Europe, and he's responsible for engaging with clients and stakeholders in Europe while supporting bid activity. Welcome on stage. And again, my friend Amir Vaziri from the very practical side as an event director and producer of Perfect Q, with a long track back experience in the area, and you will again ask and agree on what these two are saying to the subject. Yeah. So what we'd like to discover today, what does sustainability mean to the MICE-Sektor? And is success of a MICE destination dependent on sustainability or not?
Or not?
Or not?
Or not, yeah.
You say yes, maybe I say no, we see. So from your daily work experience, how often was the topic of sustainability a decisive factor in choosing a destination? Maybe I ask Sebastian first, because you are a purely destination man.
Yeah, I think on a daily basis, it's not something that we see every day. I think what we're seeing is that it's increasingly becoming a hygiene factor. So typically when we receive RFPs from event organizers looking to host an event potentially in Sydney or somewhere else, they're looking at the financial situation, they're looking at the venue, they're looking at accessibility. And over the last couple of years, we've seen sustainability creep into those RFPs. It's more often found, I think, with organizations that have a sustainability focus. We work a lot with associations in the academic space and in other spaces and industries, and those that have an alignment with sustainability or health tend to look at sustainability a little bit more often. But it's definitely increasing. I think we're sort of reaching a tipping point where we'll see it there as often as we see financial support or the capacity of a conference hall and things like that.
To Guy, from your more global perspective, because you're in connection with many destinations, did you ever get a report, we got now this event because we did these measures in our destination?
I feel like I'm on a game show. I keep
beep. Exactly.
Beep. I live in a bubble, right? I've been for 25 years. I've been working on sustainability, and so I work with the people that want to move forward with sustainability. So whether it was Abu Dhabi, who was just in here, or Singapore before, or Sydney, these are the people I work with. So my day-to-day is yes, people wanted to move forward. And what I've seen over those years, that has got bigger and bigger chunk of society. So whether I'm working with SAP, moving their events all around the world, and them trying to find and work with destinations that align with what SAP is trying to do, or whether I'm working with destinations, I see that shift. Is it big enough? Of course it's not. Is it increasing? Yes, it is.
Okay. So you already stated a lot of destination organizations you work with and try to help them to find rules and to implement strategies. So you have also created some kind of tool to compare the achievements. It's called the GDS Index. Can you tell us something about this? And I give over this tool to you to symbolize that they should show your slide in this moment.
My slide. So I think it was 2010. I think Karin, who was just here, was at that meeting. And we had a group of Scandinavian cities together, 15 cities from Scandinavia. And we all came together and we did one of those visioning workshops. And we said, we want to make Scandinavia a sustainable meetings region, 2010. And that was the vision. And I was like, fantastic, isn't that brilliant? Wow. And then the voice at the back of the room, someone quiet, I think it was actually a student, says, how will you know when you're there? How will we know when we're there? And I thought that was one of the best questions ever. What is sustainability? How do we know we're there? And I don't think we've ever defined really what is a sustainable destination because it keeps shifting as we learn. But what we did come up with was a scorecard to help us start to assess destinations. That has evolved since 2010 into something which is not that. That's your slides. Shall we see if my slides are? Oh, no. Okay. So those are Seb's side. I guess those are you. So what we came up with, and maybe you can change the presentation if anyone's at the back. But what we came up with was a way to assess destinations. And so today, 100+ cities every year, including Sydney, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, many, many cities around the world, sit there and they look at and assess, thank you, there's only one slide, so I don't need that, 77 different areas. We look at 4 different areas. We look at the city, the council, the municipality. So how well, in this case, is Sydney working as a city on environmental and social sustainability? So we always look at two points. It's like, what's the strategy? What's the direction that city's going in? So Sydney, do they have a climate change strategy? Okay. Is tourism aligned with that? Is events aligned with that? So that's one thing. Then we look at a measure of performance today. What are the carbon emissions from today? Give me a number. And so we do that across these 4 areas. So the city, then we look at suppliers, hotels, venues, airports, the DMO or the CVB. And we bring that together, and that gives us one number as a total, and then a lot of other data underneath that. So then Seb, in this case, could be using that, and his team could be using that to benchmark performance. Where are we doing good? Where are we not doing good? So, I'm sure you'll talk about this, but Seb was areas of Sydney that wasn't so good, but it's helped them focus, and the team has done an amazing job of getting better over the years. And we work as a collaborative community, so people are sharing, because we don't think it's so competitive here. So, Dubai is learning from Singapore. Singapore's learning from Copenhagen. Copenhagen's learning from small places like Belfast. So there's a real thing. So that's, in short, is what the GDS index is.
So we had also a preparation call, and then due to the things that happen outside of tourism, geopolitics, and the perspective of sustainability, and that it's no more common sense that sustainability is something that should be achieved because someone say we don't need it, there are no problems existing, it is left-wing policy to do that, and we don't want that. Why is that though? Why is there in this specific moment such a kind of refusion of what is for purely thinking it over natural to do, to preserve the nature and preserve the space we live in? Why is there so much resistance against that? There is another slide we have to show from. Can you just show the same presentation and then you click the next slide?
Did anyone see that film, Don't Look Up?
Yeah.
Where the asteroid is coming, right? And they go, don't look up, don't look up, don't look up. And they start chanting that. I mean, this is exactly where we are, right? We had some major issues around the world, right? Yeah. With communities, with income dispersal, with many, many things. And populist governments are using that, and politicians are using that as a way to focus on getting votes and getting power now, without thinking of long-term impacts of what's happened. Next door, there was just a presentation by Stefan Gosling of new kind of climate science around tourism and the events world. It's shocking what's coming, and we're all saying, don't look up. So it's a dark time. It's going to be hard in the next few years. We're going to have to fight hard. I was in Italy last week. Any Italians in the audience? Right? There's obviously changing politics there, and tourism and events kind of budgets for sustainability being cut across the country. We're seeing that in the UK. We're seeing that obviously in the States and other markets around the world. So we need a change. We need to get better at what we do.
You have such a nice slide to show it.
Do I? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think, we're in this moment of we need system change. You keep hearing that. You've heard that a lot. We have to start, first of all, we have to remember we are the system. We're part of the system. We're the problem as well. But there are systems that are changing. Look at the energy system, right? Let's jump to someone everyone always blames, but look at China. They've gone from 10% renewable energy to 55% renewable energy. That system is changing. So what's happened as the oil and gas, or in their case, the coal system is actually, is declining in China, despite what you hear. There is an emergence of a new system, a renewable energy-based system, okay? It's the same with us, right? In the events world, we're trying to, many of us are working hard to change the way events are run today to come up with a more regenerative way of events that have greater impacts onto the communities, the economies, nature, right? And so we need to kind of, gently hospice one system and allow another system come up. And I believe the work of people such as Sebastian and the DMOs here is to kind of catalyze, cultivate, nourish, propagate, and ultimately steward this new system. But we have to remember, in any systems change, there is always a kickback, where the people that benefit most from the system fight back. And we are seeing that now. So what we're seeing now is nothing unsurprising. It's our ability to work through that. So I'll give you an example. I'm going to take you back. London, 1894. 1894. What was the biggest issue in London in 1894? Poo. It was called the Great Manure Crisis, okay? And we had 300,000 horses in London. And there was, it was a booming time, right? London was booming, Victorian age. And so there was a prediction that they needed 1 million horses to make London work. Right? Growth. And so what was the big issue? There was the quantity of poo everywhere, manure around. It was causing health problems, breath problems, financial problems, everything. It was the cost to manage it. It's pretty similar to the kind of chaos we have today with climate change. But things changed really quickly. Mm-hmm. By 1912, there was almost no horse-drawn transport in London. It moved to the combustion engine very quickly, and people were fighting or resisting that change. The horse providers, no, horses are the future. What was that famous quote from Ford? He says, if you ask me about my, how to get somewhere quicker, I'll be like, how do I get my horses to go faster? That wasn't what fixed it. He reinvented it. He came up with a different solution. So this is really what we've got to do. We've got to create a better system, a better way of working.
Okay, so that's exactly the key word for Sebastian. Maybe you can give it. So Sebastian, you're already on the track on changing a destination. I think what I've learned from Guy, quite advanced. So can you tell us something about where you are in this transition work, the destination?
Yeah, so I think Guy mentioned a couple of words there which sort of resonate with us a lot as an organisation, so destination stewardship. So I think as the Convention Bureau for Sydney, we occupy a really interesting role, I guess, at sort of the centre of this nexus between suppliers, hotels, tour operators, the government, who support us very heavily in the work that we do in bringing international events to Sydney. And as an organisation, we're very strongly committed to the sustainability goals of Australia at a national level, the state of New South Wales, where we're located, and the city of Sydney as well. So we think that sustainability is a collaborative initiative. No one's going to get there alone. And so we participate in a number of initiatives that align with our sustainability goals. So I'm just going to briefly touch on some of these. So the Sustainable Destination Partnership is an initiative of the City of Sydney, the Municipal Government of Sydney, which aims to bring together all the different businesses in the visitor economy in Sydney, hotels, tour operators, venues, and ourselves, working together to make Sydney a more sustainable destination. There are 77 partners. We were a founding member back in 2018. And the focus there is on renewable energy conversion, water saving, energy saving, electrification and waste management. Guy's already spoken about the index, so I'll just mention briefly that we were one of the first cities globally to join the index back in 2016, the first Australian city, and very proudly last year ranked in the top 10 globally. So I guess that's an indication of the journey that we've been on. We didn't start in the top 10 when we first joined in 2016, but I guess through the benchmarking tools, through the education, through the learnings from other destinations and organisations like the GDSI, we've reached that. And climate active certification. So that's something that the Australian government partners with Australian businesses on. We're climate active certified, and we've been climate active certified since 2022. That means that we're carbon neutral as an organisation, and we achieve that by moving to 100% green power and offsetting our other carbon emissions. And this is just a little bit of what the overall ecosystem, sustainability ecosystem that we have looks like. So we call it our Be Green ecosystem. I've already touched on a couple of the initiatives there, so I just want to quickly mention our Be Green grant program. This is a pilot program that we introduced in 2023, where we've been able to secure additional funding that we can use to deliver sustainability grants to our clients. So it's a pilot program at the moment. We've been able to secure funding that allows us to deliver up to 10 grants worth $20,000 in matched funding for events coming to Sydney, where they would like to make their events sustainable by offsetting their carbon emissions or by reducing their emissions. So we're still in the pilot phase, and we're hoping to be able to continue this into the future. We have a Greenleaf recognition program where we look to promote those partners of ours who have their own sustainability initiatives in place. And we also have an internal Be Green committee whose purpose is to keep us focused on our organizational sustainability goals. So just briefly, I wanted to circle back to the subject of this discussion, which is, is sustainability the key to success? We've, as an organization, I think Sydney's kind of known for undertaking a lot of primary research, so we collaborate with universities in Sydney on the value and importance of events. And we've done our own research in events that have been held in Sydney in the last couple of years that have found event attendees themselves are ranking the reduction of carbon footprint of events quite highly. Like that 82% say that it's moderately to extremely important to them at the events that they attend. So they expect the organisers and the host destinations to be reducing the carbon footprint of those events. We're finding increasingly that it's in RFPs, as I mentioned before. And in fact, in some cases, we've actually found associations are referring to the GDSI index to begin the shortlisting process. So they're looking at the top 20 destinations and only issuing an RFP to those destinations. So if you're not in the top 20, then you're not even going to get the RFP, and you're not going to get an opportunity to submit a bid for that event. So I think we think the demand is there both on a client side and an attendee side, to say nothing about the environmental, I guess, imperative to address what's happening. So of course there's a business need because we have clients that are asking for it, but we're all in the visitor economy here, so we depend on the natural environment. It's also where we live in the natural environment, and I think there's a sort of shared responsibility, regardless of which industry you're in or which destination you represent, to address the issue because we're all going to be impacted by it. So
I'm very happy to hear that it has an influence. So as you said, if there is a dependency on the index and people are invited only who are in the certain listing of the index, it's really great to hear. I never imagined that it could be like that. Looking a little bit forward, as we learned in the first presentation, that there is a global growth in the MICE industry. When it comes to politics, and the predominant factor it's all about is always growth, right? So every politician only speaks about growth because growth creates money and tax income, and then we can finance other things, so it's growth and growth. Is it something that works against these things because it costs money, and if you cannot really prove it produces growth, is there now a threat because in times where economy is maybe not so strong, the growth argument may be more strong then? Do you sense this, or is it just... I mean, you can also say something.
I mean, when it comes to money, I need money for my productions. Please consider that. But get back to the discussions my colleagues here had. As an event producer and event maker, my colleagues and I, we are most of the time the last persons in the change of decision making. And I'm very sorry for that because I have asked the people who are in charge in the process at the beginning, please think a little bit about that. People like me then are asked when everything is settled, the destination has been chosen, the concept, everything is perfect, and then they come to us and say, please make it sustainable.
Like that.
So, and luckily we are not in the situation to fight the horse poo anymore. However, we have situations that we make a concept that like 2,000 participants in Shanghai, they don't come by car or taxi, they walk and make a marathon. Very sustainable, we we avoid a lot of CO2, but at the end, as a producer, I have to think about how to get rid of 1,200 desks, wooden desks, which were produced only for this event. So that means sustainability is always nice on the paper.
Yeah.
We have to think about that, you know. And of course, before the destination is chosen, everybody talks about that. And then we are facing the reality. And most of you know the reality of events, mega events, even small incentives is totally different than what we have in the legal regulations, whatever. So, and I think my appel and the decision makers is please get people like me, I'm not here looking for a job or whatever, as early as possible involved in the process of making an event sustainable. It's going to help the environment, it's going to help your clients, and it's going to help you.
You just nailed it, and that's exactly right. I was just thinking, that you had Abu Dhabi on stage here, and I've been working on 3 mega events for Abu Dhabi for the Convention Bureau and the government over the last few years. And the first one, we went in, the vision, fantastic, you know, kind of what you often, you know, the perception of Abu Dhabi is, right? But we achieved that, but we changed the mindset right? Not the performance, but the mindset. Next one, we went from the World Environmental Ecological Congress. Then we did a ECA, not a mega event, but for our sector, it's a mega event, right? So we managed to shift, again, more mindset, better earlier engagement with the production companies and the catering companies. And we did this much. Again, not what we want. Now we're doing the IUCN World Congress, which is a mega event. 30, 40,000 people for 2 weeks. But the mindset has changed. Now we've got people 2 years up front thinking how they design things, how they build things. We're changing waste systems. We're changing transportation systems. The proper way to look at systems change. Trouble is that doesn't happen everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So, but it can be done. I think that's the message here. You can make things better. You can do systemic change to destinations, to industries. But as you said, we all got to get around the table.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing about the work happening in Sydney with the partnership, the Sustainable Destination Partnership. I think it was one of the first around the world that really came together. And what I like about this as an example is sometimes we try to do too much. I remember when you started that, Sebastian, you had 4 focus areas, not 15, 4. That's how you start. And when you move that, as you can see, now they've moved on to other areas and different areas.
So maybe one last round about this transition we are in at the moment and the world around us with all its insanity. Would you assume that this transition is accelerating, as you said, with your horses, from one day to another, they had been all gone, or will it slow down because of this governments in the world who doesn't care at the moment, or will it even come to a halt in specific areas, in specific destinations? What is your assumption?
Well, I think I invite everyone, do not believe everything you hear or anything from a politician, right? I think we pretty much know that. So double check it, do your own research, look at your own things. You know the classic story, we need nuclear now. Okay, we've got to go into nuclear. Yes, nuclear has a role to play, but any nuclear power station will take 15 years to get online, okay? Whereas if you look at the recent data from battery growth of storage systems, and you can look at Adelaide and places like this as examples, by 2030 we will have the capacity of storage to outmaneuver coal, oil and gas and other things. The growth is phenomenal, it's exponential. So we have exponential technology rises happening, whether that's AI or whether that's, you know, renewable energies or materials or plastics or electric engines and things like that. We have exponential growth in climate change and the problems that's going to hit. We have to go so much faster, right? You have to bring the two together.
What's your opinion?
Yeah, I agree. I think we're, you know, I mentioned before tipping point, and tipping point I think is a phrase that comes up a lot when we speak about climate change, because we talk about the 1.5 degrees tipping point. But I think there's also an economic tipping point, which sort of I addressed, which is regardless of a particular government or organization's political or philosophical position on the issue of climate change or renewable energy. There's an economic reality which is coming into play at the moment with the cost of energy generation in countries that can produce renewable energy. Australia is blessed to have a lot of sunshine and to have a lot of space, and we're sort of reaching that tipping point where renewable energy, we're not reaching it, we reached it a while ago actually, where renewable energy is significantly cheaper than fossil-based energy. And that's happening in a lot of other places. And the example of China came up before. China have been doing amazing work for a long time. Australia really pioneered a lot of the early solar and photovoltaic science, and then China kind of ran with it. And that's sort of really amazing to see. So I think there are economic realities which nations, governments, and organizations will have to deal with, regardless of what their position on climate change and sustainability is. And I think that's a good thing.
I think you need to bring that, back. Let's bring that back to where we are. If we're an event production company, what does that mean to what we have to do day to day? The vinyl banners we use to print most of the things, right? In many places now, that to do a polyester eco banner was 5, 10, 15 times more expensive. In a lot of places now, that's the same. You've got things such as, these type of things matter, cardboard, falcon board, things like that. They're cheaper now than the plastic versions. The market shifts, just like renewables. As more of us buy, it becomes more competitive. And we forget that sometimes. We forget that, the price of things drops the more we do it.
But I'm sorry, I have to play the role of the devil's advocate.
Brilliant.
Again. Because as a producer, again, just an example, we had a big show in Berlin for one of the major electric car producers. And then my job was to make this event as sustainable as possible. And then we came to the point of test drives. So then you have like 200 vehicles. You make test drives, you make slalom, you drive from here to Potsdam and back. And many of participants, they came by train, didn't use the airplane. And then at the end of the event, it was my job and my responsibility to get rid of 2,800 noise. Tires.
Wow.
And then you say, okay, tires are not recyclable, And I said, why can't we reuse these tires? Because of the German regulations, if you use tires, no, I'm just showing you because I needed someone to point that. So they are not reusable. So that means, I don't know, but if someone calculates the amount of CO2 we saved, and then at the end to get rid of all these tires, I don't want to do this job. But as I said, people like me, we are always the last one in the chain of decision making, and all these negative aspects of mega events, incentives, marketing events that comes back to us. And again, if someone had the chance to think about these challenges before, but many people know about these challenges, but they don't want to talk about it.
I think you nailed something, which is one of our big challenges, is circularity. In this industry, we use and we throw away. We're not very good at use and reuse and reuse. It's got much better. This is not made of something that you can throw away. We can reuse it.
We'll find this one next year.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, only 8% of all the resources on the planet we reuse. 8%. It's pretty pathetic. And it's going down, not going up. So, again, coming back to that, we can reuse tires in roads, in building materials. But for the work we do here with the stage sets and the branding, we can reuse that, we can reincorporate, we can recycle it. We just need to give it a bit more focus.
Yeah, exactly. But if before the event there is someone...
Yes, before the event.
Before the events, not if I have only 2 days time to get rid of the tires, there is no chance. I cannot take it home.
Totally agree.
Amir, thank you for these reality checks in between. It's very helpful to understand when you come from theory down to practical issues. But as a conclusion, I would like to draw more a positive conclusion, that we are in this transition area, that it is not only driven by a theory, but also by economic need, which is always a good driver, so as you explained. And I'm really happy to learn that this is a part of a decision for a destination, that you look into indexes and want to see how sustainability is really handled. So I think it's a good outcome, and let's discuss next year how far we have gone then. So thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.